Welcome to another exciting episode of bringing Jesus back into focus, because he's made very blurry back in the 4th century by the corrupt Christian leaders under Constantine. This episode I'll be ripping into the book of Revelation. I love doing this. I love ripping that to pieces and tearing it up. That's great. It's the most slanderous, stinking, evil book about Jesus in the entire Gospels, New Testament. It's not in the Gospels, but they've stuck it in there to destroy the image of Jesus and turn him into a satanic, murdering war god coming on the clouds, which is Yahweh 1. So that's what it'll be about, this talk. I love doing this. I love it. So I'm happy to do it for him. Now, the Christian leaders in the 4th century destroyed the pacifist message of Jesus and this divine loving spiritual creator and the connection to her or him and the beautiful spiritual world of love, another dimension, another life. You've got a body in you, Jesus said. It's going to leave at death. Get into it now, but it's only empowered by love and non-violence and nothing else. It's a spiritual loving life force. Your physical body has to have peas and beans and potato and water and gases. It's all physical. It's all elements. It all goes back to the earth, rots and stinks. Your spiritual body is the one that leaves and reaps what it sows. That's the one he's concentrating on. Wake up, he's trying to wake you up. Bring those dead to the spirit back to life. That's what he said to the disciples to do. Share my teachings, wake them up. They've got a spiritual body, but they don't know it. And it's only love. The Jewish religion was eventually overlaid straight onto Jesus and the loving spiritual creator of love. Now, unfortunately for all Jewish Christians now, because all Christian churches in the world are not Christian churches, they're Jewish churches with Jesus as a Christian add-on. They worship Yahweh. Yahweh is a two-headed God. The Jewish religion is not monotheistic. They worship a brutal, murdering, genocidal war god called Yahweh 1. They've got another God of peace and love called Yahweh 2. Love your neighbour as yourself. If a foreigner is amongst you, treat them as a Jew and love them as yourself. That's Yahweh 2, the God of love and peace. Yahweh 1 is go and kill all those foreigners, steal everything at Jericho, murder every man, woman and child and take the land. That's the war god. Two completely different gods. They need two different temples. The Jews were cunning and deceptive. They put their stinking war god in the same temple as the God of love and peace. You can't do that. That's a lie. That's schizophrenic. The Romans had war god Mars, as brutal as the Yahweh war god. Ares was the Greek war god, as brutal as Yahweh 1. Sekhmet, the Egyptian god, all brutal, murdering, revengeful killers, just bloodlust killers, the same as Yahweh 1. The Jews were worshipping Mars, Sekhmet, Ares and Yahweh 1. They're all the same god with different names. Murdering, thieving, genocidal bastards. The Romans had Pax, the god of peace and love. The Greeks had Irene, peace and love. The Egyptians had another god whose name I forget, but it was a calming god. Be calm with these people, don't hurt them. They all had different temples. They had to go across the road from the war god's temple, because over here in the temple of Pax, they're asking to help us be strong in love and compassionate and sharing and not kill them. So it's a different force. You're relating to a different energy, a different force. You become a different person. That's spiritually love. You're moving in that direction towards heaven. The Jews did not have another temple for their loving Yahweh. They put the two Yahwehs together in the one temple and called their opposite God of love, instead of calling it Amore. Let's go over to the temple of Amore. We don't actually want to kill everyone at Jericho, but in fact they did. They went to the war god's temple. But the thing is, you see, this is a great lie. So once you put those two gods together as one god, when they're not one god, they're opposing forces. You've got a real problem. So what happened was the early Christians under Constantine, by the 380 AD, they allowed all Roman soldiers to basically go to war and kill in the name of Jesus. They could be Christians. Now they could convert to Christianity because Constantine stopped persecuting Christians in 313 AD. And so from then on, of course, once the Jewish God Yahweh was overlaid onto the beautiful spiritual loving creator that Jesus was at one with. The spiritual loving creator was essentially poisoned. And Jesus was poisoned by the Jewish religion, by Yahweh, the two-headed God. He is not the son of the brutal, stinking war god Yahweh. This loving life force that Jesus described, her love is like the sun that rises on the good and on the evil. Her love is like the rain that falls on the just and the unjust. She is kind to the ungrateful and even the evil. She is perfect love. Jesus followed that statement up, describing this beautiful being in another dimension. If you wish to be her children and enter her world, your love must be as perfect as her love. There's no war god in that description at all. Jesus said to Philip, if you see me, Philip, you see God. Jesus was a pacifist. He never hurt anyone. He taught, love your enemies. So there's the problem. So anyway, I was down by the river one day here in Melbourne, Australia, and Jesus and God sort of tapped me on the shoulder and said, look, you've been going around to these churches lately, Chris, to find out what they're doing about us and what they're saying about us, and you can see they're slandering us. And I said, they certainly are. I'm amazed. Because I left the Jewish Christian Catholic Church when I was 16 and took Jesus with me because they were teaching that lie about the Jewish God being the same God as Jesus. What a lie. I left. I studied Buddhist teachings because they were still teaching he was a pacifist and Buddhists have to be pacifists. Great. Okay. So I said, well, look, I'll give it a go. So I did. So what I did was I rewrote the Gospels translations from the Greek interlinear. It'll seem quite traditional if you read it, the Gospels of Jesus Unplugged. It's published around the world. Some young people find it very interesting, and also some Jewish Christians who are disillusioned with the Jewish Christian churches and even leave because of the Jewish religion and because exactly why I left 50-something years ago. They're leaving for the same reason. They find my Gospel of Jesus Unplugged much better to read. I get rid of all the apocalyptic Jewish war god overlays that are poisoning the Gospels. They're false. They're false additions to poison who Jesus really was, because they try to link him to the book of Revelation, which is a stinking, evil, slanderous book. And so they find my Gospels of Jesus refreshing. I don't say God the Father. I say loving, spiritual creator. Because Jesus described this creator that way. I say her, but you can say he. It doesn't matter. She's beyond gender. Jesus described her as love, spiritual, and a creator. So I say loving, spiritual creator. More universal. The Teaching of Jesus Unplugged is a much more powerful book because I get to talk about the lies that are in the Gospels, and I explain why they're lies and I explain the truth. That's going to be published on about the 11th of January, I think, so 2026, so very shortly. That's available, well, you'll find it online eventually. It'll take a couple of weeks to appear on Amazon everywhere, but that'll be available. Or you can contact me at jcnfocus@gmail.com, and I'll post one out to you for a charge of something. So this is the book here. So we're going to be discussing the Revelation Ruse tonight. I'll be reading it rather, not discuss. We won't be discussing it. You'll just have to listen. I'll be talking. Oh, how boring. Never mind. Okay, the spiritual teachings. Well, what's going on there? Why aren't you going up there? Don't know. Okay. Okay. Sorry. There we are. This is the back of the cover of the book that's about to be released worldwide, explaining how Revelation should be ripped out and what should be and what's false, etc. And Jesus was only talking about love and why he was a pacifist, how that was destroyed. There's some historical work in this, as well as just a general dialogue from a person who's always loved Jesus since he was a little child and always knew him as love and non-violence. So as he said to Philip, I know who God is. He's love and non-violence, or she's love and non-violence. The spiritual teachings of Jesus are a universal calling to all human children on earth to awaken into our spiritual body and true identity of love and non-violence before our dualistic body and mind of the flesh dies and returns to the earth. Only our spiritual body and soul live on. We must prevent the dualistic mind of our earthly body of flesh from controlling us and become at one with our spiritual mind, filled only with the loving life force of our loving spiritual creator. Then our two bodies, one made of the earth and one formed of spirit, can be in harmony and at one in purpose to bring the spiritual love and peace of heaven to earth for all children. Only true spiritual children of light and love can enter the heavenly spiritual world. All those children divided within themselves between love and hatred cannot enter. The words of Jesus can awaken and transform us. Every day for some time now I had to make up a prayer to try to help center myself into my spiritual body, which is what Jesus teaches we all have. That's the one that leaves at death, and the dead body of flesh, you know what he said to do with that? Feed it to the vultures. It's in the Gospels. The Jewish Christian churches don't sort of point that at you very much. They whitewash it. I don't. I love his words. His words, I find the truth. There it is. This is a daily prayer to center myself into my spiritual body, and it's a nice one to think about. If you say it enough, I've sort of made it sort of rhyming, so it's easy to actually remember. But I say this every day just quietly, and I come into my spiritual identity. My spiritual mind is only love. It's a meditation practice. You can think of your mind being completely undisturbed by any hatred or anger or anything that's evil or any past sins or whatever. You know, you can have this beautiful mind of love, because you've got to remember, in heaven, in the heavenly spiritual world, you know, only heavenly spiritual children can get in who are only filled with love. You can't get in otherwise. So there isn't any fear there anymore. There's no sin, there's no evil, none of that's there. Because pure love sort of repels all evil, because all evil are shadow figures, false things. The spiritual heavenly world is the true world. It's full of light and love. Light destroys all dark shadows. Dark shadows can't enter. Putin, Netanyahu, Hitler, whoever the latest satanic children are, they can't get in because they've covered themselves in this dark shadow. So we don't want to do that. We want to stay in our body of light and love. That's your spiritual body. You've got it with you. It's in you right now. You've got to imagine it, of course, but it'll come alive if you become like Jesus in the way you live. That's what he said. Follow my words and you won't taste death. You'll become like me. And you'll move through the death experience of your body and out of it at the end of it. And you'll be set free. But be ready to enter the heavenly spiritual world of love. There's only one way to get ready. If the whole world there is love and all the children there are just filled with love, guess how you have to be to enter? That's correct. Filled with love. Here's the prayer. As I rest upon this earth, the Holy One, she will give birth to who I really am, awakening me from clay and sand, a spiritual child of the divine, with only her love that fills my mind. To every creature I will be kind in every single land, for this is truly who I am, a spiritual child of the loving spiritual creator in the heavenly spiritual world, born out of the earth, to bring her love to children in need and help guide them home to heaven, as she has guided me, through the spiritual way and teachings that Jesus gave us to be, just as he, a spiritual child of love on earth. And that's who we all are, underneath our flesh and dualistic mind of loving and hating and that sort of stuff. This is the person you have to become. You have to awaken to this identity that's in you. You still have your unique personality to express the love, as I do and everyone does, and Jesus did. He had a unique personality, but it's the same love in everyone once your spiritual body wakes up. Jesus said to the disciples, go and bring those dead to the spirit back to life and heal the sick ones as well, their sick bodies. It's the spirit that you've got to bring back to life. That was the big message of Jesus. So that's my logo, spirit and earth, the cross and the dove. Jesus' body, flesh body represents the cross, dead, buried, rotted, and it didn't rise again. He left in his spiritual body, the dove, and flew off to heaven. And he's still there, and he said, follow me. I always love saying the last words in the Gospel of John. So the last words of Jesus, the legitimate words, not the crappy book of Revelation, Daniel rubbish, the dream sequence of some psychedelic dream. No, the last words recorded of Jesus in the Gospel of John are, follow me. He did not say, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator, I'll be back. I love saying that. The Revelation Ruse. Now I love this chapter. I loved ripping Revelation book to pieces. I just loved it. I loved doing it. This is the most stinking, filthy slander about Jesus and the loving spiritual creator that gives us all a chance to be spiritual, full of love and come to heaven. This just is stinking, dog-dropping filth. And the fact that all the Jewish Christian churches, including the Catholic Church that I was born into, still have this in the New Testament, it's a disgrace. You are all disgraceful. You are slandering Jesus and the loving spiritual life force of heaven by leaving this in anywhere near Jesus is a disgusting, stinking disgrace. Rip it out and tell all your followers, we no longer believe the Revelation Ruse has anything to do with Jesus. We believe it's a false book slandering Jesus and the loving creator of Jesus. Once you do that, once you've got the guts to speak the truth, the spiritual Jewish Christian churches, you might start getting children coming back because you're driving them all the way now by teaching this rubbish and this filth. I get a bit upset about it. Sorry about that. But why not? They're slandering my friend. If they're slandering my mother, do you think I'd just sit back and go, oh, that's okay? Okay, the Revelation Ruse. Let's get into it. I love it. Definition of the word ruse. Something done to deceive or trick someone. The book of Revelation is an extremely well-crafted, cunning and false entry placed at the end of the new spiritual loving way of Jesus and the one loving spiritual creator to detour followers of Jesus to go back and worship the two-headed God of the Jews of war and limited love and destroy the connection with our true loving spiritual creator in the heavenly spiritual world of love. It slanders Jesus and the divine pure source of love he was at one with and wants us all to be at one with also as her spiritual children of love on earth. I always advise every single Christian and follower of Jesus to rip it out and burn it. Its intent is evil. Wake up. Historically, most theological scholars agree that the Greek style of writing seen in the Revelation Ruse is not the same style used in the Gospel of John. They also point out that Revelation focuses on judgment and divine wrath of a God and Jesus destroying children's lives, which is the opposite of the Jesus teaching of forgiveness and love, and the description Jesus gave of our loving spiritual creator of perfect love he was at one with. It doesn't match. Even scholars sort of agree. They are two completely different authors. You can't even compare the mystical beauty of some of the dialogue written about Jesus in John, the Gospel of John, on love, with this load of dark, judgmental, revengeful and violent evil associated with the Jewish war god Yahweh One, not the loving spiritual creator of Jesus. An apocalyptic Jew has stuck this in to destroy the Christian religion. That's who's done it, like a spy, undercover agent. That's why it's been put in there. Alexandrian Bishop Dionysius said, by the phraseology we can easily see, this is going back in time, right? So this is early on in the history of the church. By the phraseology we can easily see the difference between the Gospels and Epistle and Revelation. The first two are written without any blunders in the use of the Greek and with remarkable skill regarding diction, logical thought and orderly expression. Revelation is not. They knew that someone else wrote that. It's not the writer of the John Gospel. Everyone agrees on that. It's someone else, some spy, some undercover agent, some Jewish apocalyptic person. Gaius in the 3rd century believed Revelation to be a fabrication by Cerinthus, who, by means of revelations which he pretends were written by a great apostle, brings before us marvellous things which he falsely claims were shown to him by angels, and he says that after the resurrection the kingdom of Christ will be set up on earth. Even this guy knew that's a load of rubbish. The spiritual heavenly world is not earth. This is the material world, dualistic. Birth, death, suffering. No, he knew. Marcion was a Christian theologian in the late 1st and early 2nd century. He completely rejected the Revelation book as being a book representing the jealous Old Testament Jewish God Yahweh One, who demanded obedience and punishes mankind for disobeying his laws through causing them to suffer and die, whereas Marcion correctly saw the loving spiritual creator of Jesus as being a completely different, universal divine being of compassion and love who looks upon mankind with benevolence and mercy. Marcion was 100% correct. He knew Jesus and he knew this is a load of crap. But they knocked Marcion out of the way, the corrupt Jewish Christian leaders. They got rid of him because he knew the truth. Eusebius, an early Christian leader in the 2nd to 3rd century, labelled the book as questionable, most likely not written by the Gospel of John author, but did not condemn it outright. They were very suspicious about this book. The ones who just didn't see it obviously was a load of crap. Other early church leaders influenced by the Constantine factor, who killed in the name of Jesus and our loving Creator, caused them to become corrupted, converting pacifist Christians into Jewish Christians. They wrongly led them back into worshipping the Jewish two-headed God Yahweh again, instead of the loving spiritual creator that Jesus taught about. Then they agreed to include the evil Revelation book in the New Testament, which obviously boosted their corruption, converting pacifist Christians back into dualistic Jewish Christians who can kill their enemies like the Jews, instead of loving their enemies like Jesus taught us to do. It is a very corrupting and evil book. So they eventually thought, well, this Revelation book could serve our purpose for Constantine. If we put this in, it's sort of like, well, Jesus is killing everyone. So, yeah, that's okay. Let's corrupt it further. Let's confuse the Christian followers even further and make them more Jewish. What a slander. What evil. The Revelation Ruse was reluctantly accepted in the biblical canon around 397 AD at the Council of Carthage. It was reluctantly included in the Eastern Christian churches around 680 AD. Skepticism and rejection was always still present amongst true followers of Jesus, as it is today, like people like myself and the Assyrian Christians. They don't like it either. Predominantly by the Eastern churches, some of whom still refuse to acknowledge it as a biblical New Testament book, as it is the Jewish Old Testament book of Daniel, revised to slander Jesus and our loving Creator. Martin Luther called Revelation neither apostolic nor prophetic, but under the pressure of opposition, he revised his opinion later to accept it, but could still not see Christ in it. Martin Luther, you see, under pressure, you see, from the Jewish Christians, he caved in a bit there. He should have stood his ground. No, this is crap. Rip it out. Any Bibles I produce to share won't have it in it. He should have stood his ground. He backed down a bit there. But he still can't see Christ in it. Because Jesus isn't in it. It's a satanic war god coming back on the clouds. A demon, Satan, that's who it is. He was right. Jesus and our loving Creator are not there. But a distorted Jesus and the two-headed God of the Jews is well and truly present. Especially Yahweh One, the brutal murdering war god of the Jews. No Christian should ever read this book. Origins of apocalyptic revelations. Where did it come from anyway? How did the Jews pick up this rubbish? In general, it seems the author of Revelation is a Palestinian Jew with some Christian knowledge. He displays a strong affinity and familiarity with the Jewish scriptures, especially Daniel, that few converts would have. Scholars say the book alludes to the Old Testament around 500 times, more than any other New Testament book. The extreme Jewishness of the author can also be seen in the many uses of Jewish terminology and poor Greek grammar that a Greek writer on such a topic would never produce. This is written by a Jew to destroy Jesus and the loving Creator's reputations. The apocalyptic belief of the Jews originated around the 3rd to 1st centuries BC, often mixed in with the Jewish expectation of a mighty warrior Messiah who will make Israel great again. It seems to have been heavily influenced by Zoroastrianism, which teaches dualism and a cosmic battle between good and evil, culminating in a final battle where all evil is vanquished and all of creation will be reunited with the Creator in perfection. They got it from the Zoroastrians when they were in Babylon. That's where they picked it up. They also believe in a final resurrection of the dead and a final judgment for all based on their earthly lives and actions. These are the Zoroastrians. A great prophet or saviour figure also plays a significant role in the final apocalypse. Modern scholars say the book of Daniel was written by a Jew exiled in Babylon around the 2nd century BC, where he was likely influenced by Zoroastrian beliefs. So that's where they picked it up. And then you see the Jewish Christians, the corrupt Christian leaders, overlaid all this rubbish and garbage and filth onto Jesus and the loving spiritual creator to slander them and poison them. This is evil. The book is often cryptic and uses symbolic terminology of beasts with multiple horns, wars between opposing forces, and other such fanciful images. And a son of man coming on the clouds of heaven. He will be given dominion over all of mankind, and all children will serve him, and his kingdom will never end. The Revelation Ruse is almost a Jewish carbon copy of Zoroastrian beliefs, with a combination of some Christian dialogues, Jesus as the Saviour or Messiah figure, and the two-headed God of the Jews being the Creator, and they bring destruction upon mankind. And that is the exact intention of this corrupt Jewish book planted at the end of the spiritual teachings and way of love of Jesus, who leads you out of the two-headed God of the Jews, only to be duped and taken back by this cunning detour sign to worship the two-headed God Yahweh of the Jews again. Instead of following Jesus to where he has gone by becoming spiritually awakened to your true spiritual identity as a spiritual child of our loving Creator in a heavenly spiritual world of love, very devious and cunning indeed. Judeo-Christians place this Jewish dialogue as a powerful overlay onto Jesus and combine this Son of Man in Daniel with the Revelation Ruse, where Jesus is depicted in this way at the end of the world. The term Son of Man was used in other Old Testament books as a general term to describe someone who is a simple human being, which is why Jesus used it, as he was just an ordinary human being like all of us. But he underwent a spiritual awakening and realized he had another identity of a spiritual body and soul mind of love that is eternal. And then he taught us how to find and awaken into it as well and go to where he is. As his last words in the Gospel of John state, "Follow me." He is not coming back on the clouds. Sorry, that's not what he said. The purpose of the Revelation Ruse. I call the Revelation Ruse one of the most cunning, evil and slanderous attacks ever, thought up to deceive the followers of Jesus and take them away from becoming like him through just reading his spiritual way of love, follow him to the heavenly spiritual world. It copies Daniel's cryptic symbolic imagery and takes it to new heights of unintelligible, irrelevant, mesmerizing puzzles to spend your whole life trying to figure out and decode, wasting your precious time by distracting and taking you away from looking only at the transformational spiritual teachings and words of Jesus that can lead you to our loving spiritual Creator in the eternal heavenly spiritual world of love. You see what it's doing? So many people are tangled up in that. Now, they'll never understand it because that's what it's designed to do, to keep you trapped in that and forget about Jesus' words and even worship this stinking war god of the Jews. And Satan, that's Satan coming back on the clouds for sure. Jesus himself said it is his words that save you. Instead, you are sucked into waiting for him to come back one day and save you during an horrific apocalypse that he and our loving Creator supposedly cause, while they slaughter all the bad children, the lost sheep. This doesn't quite match the story of the loving shepherd who saves the lost sheep that Jesus taught about himself and our loving Creator, does it? It's a lie. It's filthy, stinking slander. And the most insidious thing it does of all is to destroy your spiritual mind or eye from being single and full of light and the loving life force of your loving Creator that gives your spirit true life by loving all children, both good and evil. It doesn't mean we, love what evil children do. That's a different matter. But we try to love them out of their evil. That's what love is. As Jesus taught, both he and our loving Creator are perfect love, and we must be also to enter heaven. But the corrupter who wrote this Revelation Ruse is telling you that they are actually both dualistic and divided within themselves between loving some and hating and destroying some. And Jesus warned us all that if we are divided within ourselves, we will be filled with darkness, the exact way of the two-headed God of the Jews that Jesus tried to bring them out of. Someone who hated Jesus and the Christian spiritual way of love, non-violence and peace has cleverly dropped Jesus, the Prince of Peace and a loving Creator, into the middle of a version of the book of Daniel from the Jewish religion. Obviously, it must have been an apocalyptic Jew who did it. Jesus and our loving Creator have then been covered over in a cryptic, convoluted load of lies and dark distortions that are all associated with the violent, murdering Godhead of war, Yahweh One of the Jews. He did this deliberately to convert Christians back into being Jewish Christians and shift their spiritual connection from our loving spiritual Creator back to the two-headed God of the Jews of war and limited love. If they could fool Christians into believing that Jesus and our loving spiritual Creator are going to slaughter the bad, evil children at the end of some mythical time, but save the chosen good children, then Jesus and our loving Creator are revengeful killers and murderers. Doesn't quite fit what Jesus was, does it? If you see me, Philip, you see God, he said to Philip. God didn't hurt anyone. Jesus didn't hurt anyone. They never do. They can't hurt anyone. They're only love. This is a lie. Just like the perverted war god of the Jews, that Jesus gave his life to bring the Jews away from and into the one true loving spiritual Creator. And of course it leads Christians to fall into the trap of murdering again in wars, just like the Jews, destroying their connection with our loving spiritual Creator and her loving life force in their spiritual bodies. Once you shift into the shadow figure, you're out of your spiritual body. The life force isn't involved in wars or murdering or killing. You're living out of a beast of the flesh. You're just flesh. All flesh dies, rots and stinks. You're worshipping death if you take part in wars. The writer has some knowledge of 7 Mediterranean Christian groups and makes out Jesus is telling them what to say to the 7 churches. He describes Jesus in 2 different ways. This is quite interesting. Firstly, as a son of man, so we know it is Jesus possibly. Jesus referred to himself that, well, I'm just an ordinary person. That's what he was saying. Like you, that's what the Son of Man means. I'm just an ordinary human like you. You can be like me. He wasn't, the only Son of God, which is another Jewish overlay. So firstly, as a Son of Man, the first description says, he is clothed in a robe with a golden sash across his chest. His head and hair were like wool and as white as snow. His voice sounded like many waters, and his face was like the sun, shining in its strength. Now that sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Imagine if your child or daughter or son was like that. Oh, beautiful child, wonderful, beautiful. Now there's a bit of truth. That's okay. I can see that's Jesus, sure. But guess what else is woven in amongst it? But there is another cunning description running inside it. His eyes were like a flame of fire, and his feet were like burnished bronze, when it has been made to glow in a furnace. And out of his mouth came a sharp 2-edged sword, and he has the keys to death and Hades. Jesus doesn't have the keys to Hades, does he? He has the keys to heaven. Get it? Can you see the stinking, filthy slander now? Unless someone points it out to you, you're brainwashed by the Jewish Christian churches. Jesus doesn't hold the keys to Hades. If anyone does, you might say Satan does, but you send yourself to hell anyway. Jesus doesn't want you going there. It's so stunning that I'm gobsmacked that this is still being taught. The first description is very nice and loving and clearly refers to Jesus as the Lamb of God by mentioning the word wool. But take a close look at the second description cleverly mixed into the first. His eyes are flaming. He has a dualistic sword. His feet are glowing like feet found in a furnace of fire, and he holds the keys to death and hell. The second description is of Satan, the war god Yahweh of the Jews. It is Satan who holds the keys to temptation, death and hell, not Jesus and our loving spiritual creator who hold the keys to heaven. This person is a Jew who wants Christians to worship the war god of the Jews and sets Jesus up as the bait to convert you back into being Jewish and destroy the loving way of Jesus and our loving creator that you were at one with. It's a really evil book, this. The general dialogues to the 7 churches involve warning them against going astray, or they will suffer in various ways, and make some legitimate spiritual points. You know, there's some general, oh, don't do bad things, you know, you'll be in trouble, you know. Fair enough, okay. But it's mixed in, a little bit of truth with all the lies. Nice way to sell something to gullible people. However, at one point, Jesus supposedly says to the church at Thyatira, I gave Jezebel time to repent, and she does not want to repent of her immorality. Behold, I will throw her on a bed of sickness. This is Jesus. He's going to make her sick. It's a figurative thing about corruption, people who are corrupt. I'm going to throw her on a bed of sickness, and those who commit adultery with her into great tribulation, unless they repent. And I will kill her children with pestilence. That's Jesus. Yeah, wake up. That's satanic. That's a war god who does that. Jesus heals the sick. This is the revengeful satanic war god of the Jews, not Jesus speaking. Although this Jezebel is a symbolic leader of immoral conduct, we only have to recall the story of how Jesus treated the actual woman caught in immoral adultery with forgiveness and compassion. Or remember that Jesus healed the sick. He did not cause sickness. To clearly see this particular revelation account of Jesus is a pile of dog droppings, to use a polite word. That's all this is. This is stinking filth. In the message to Laodicea, Jesus says, because you are neither cold nor hot, but only lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. Jesus never abandons anyone, and neither does our loving spiritual creator. We may be spiritually lazy and stagnating, but they still shine their everlasting love upon us, waiting for us to come alive in spirit and be saved. That's who they are. They're only love. If you want to be lazy and just not become spiritual, they don't they don't get rid of you. They wait for you to wake up. It then goes into a bizarre dream sequence where a heavenly book with 7 seals on it needs to be opened by someone, but no one could be found worthy enough to open it. But hang on, a lamb standing as if slain with 7 horns and 7 eyes came and took the book out of the right hand of he who sits on the throne of heaven. And all praised the Lamb and fell down and worshipped him who saved men with his blood. Unlike Jesus saying that I'll save you with my words. Again, a lie, a Jewish overlay. This is a misleading Jewish overlay put onto Jesus as a sacrificial lamb whose blood saves you, when Jesus said himself, it is his words that will save you. And to describe Jesus having 7 horns and 7 eyes is a very Jewish overlaid symbolism, and almost makes him out to look like a monster instead of a lamb. Then these cunning dialogues move into the insidious culmination of destroying who Jesus and our loving creator really are, by Jesus personally being the one who opens each seal in the heavenly world. By doing so, he then supposedly instigates destruction, earthquakes, plagues and fires to kill many children, and literally incites children to kill each other in war. Jesus said, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. He then spreads a horrible sickness onto children's bodies. Jesus healed the sick of all their illnesses. He kills 1/3 of all creatures in the sea. Why would he even do that? A fish evil? It makes no sense. He poisons drinking water. Jesus said he has the water of life to give everyone. He causes famine to starve children to death. He multiplied the loaves and fishes to feed the hungry. He releases locusts like scorpions to torture children for 5 months. Jesus expels all harmful things from our life, including evil spirits. He then releases angels from heaven to murder a third of mankind and bring death upon the children of the world. Can you believe that? Angels are pure in spiritual love. They're in heaven. They're only love. They can't be anything else. And they can never harm any of us. Demons, satanic demons, sure, they can do it. Not angels. Not heavenly angels. They help you. They're the lifesavers down at the beach. They protect you from drowning. They only protect us from harm. These sound more like demons. These filthy revelation evil acts are exactly the sort of things a satanic godhead of war does, not Jesus or our loving spiritual creator in the heavenly spiritual world of love. And after a mammoth battle set between good and evil children, the temple of the Jewish God in heaven was opened, and there were flashes of lightning, sounds of thunder, an earthquake, and a great hailstorm. Then there was a war in heaven as well. The place beyond all suffering that Jesus teaches about, where no evil can come. There's a war there now in heaven. Oh, fair dinkum. Then there is a very cryptic, convoluted scenario involving all sorts of weird beasts that are symbolic of unknown various forces on earth and in heaven. Angels, demons, finally gather the evil children, and they are crushed to death in a winepress, driven supposedly by our loving Creator's anger, with blood coming out to the depth of a horse's bridle for 200 miles. Jesus said, "I have not come to judge the world, but to save the world." Can you understand that this is stinking, filthy slander? And all the Jewish Christian churches are teaching this to children? Then a song of praise is sung by the good children, praising the Lamb, Jesus, for being so righteous in causing these brutal, vicious actions towards the lost children of our loving Creator. Then more destruction is given out by Jesus and supposedly the loving Creator of Jesus, when another angel, demon, from heaven is sent to kill every living thing in the sea. Another angel, demon, from heaven makes the sun so hot it burns people's skin. Again, Jesus is sending out this damage for people's bodies when all he ever did was heal them of leprosy and such things. This is rubbish. Another angel, demon, of heaven dries up rivers. More hailstones, about 100 pounds each, are sent down by Jesus and supposedly by a loving Creator to kill more of her children who did not bow down and obey them. That's the war god of the Jews. Then after more killing and destruction supposedly caused directly by Jesus and our loving Creator, it says, "From his mouth comes a sharp sword, so that with it he may strike down the nations and rule them with a rod of iron." Not a heart of love, a rod of iron. "And he treads the winepress of the fierce wrath of God the Almighty," the war god Yahweh, one of the Jews. This sounds more like Adolf Hitler than Jesus. And it goes on in a dream sequence where finally Satan and all the lost sheep are thrown into hell forever by our loving Creator and Jesus. Jesus, the shepherd who came to save the lost sheep from hell, is now throwing them into hell. Well, maybe he got up on the wrong side of the bed or something, had a bad day, What a load of crap. What a crock of dog droppings. What a disgraceful slander of my spiritual teacher of love and forgiveness and great friend, Jesus. And of course, what a disgusting, filthy portrayal of our loving spiritual Creator in the heavenly spiritual world of love. This is all about the two-headed, perverted God of the Jews and their war god, Yahweh one. Not the Yahweh loving God, that's a different Yahweh, you've got to remember that. And trying to trick Christian followers of Jesus to follow it again. It is satanic through and through. It perverts who Jesus was and still is, and destroys the perfect love of our loving spiritual Creator in the heavenly spiritual world, who gives all our spiritual bodies and souls her loving life force to have spiritual life. You won't get into heaven unless you're at one with love. Jesus said that. She can only give you love because that's all she is. There are no direct words of Jesus in this distorted, perverted book. Only a dream sequence someone supposedly had and then wrote about. You cannot distort something without adding some points of truth to then distort them. So a few correct examples of things Jesus might say are added into the convoluted storyline to fool children into believing that all the rest of the rubbish and slander must be about him and our loving Creator as well. It all must be true. Because look, here's a few true things that Jesus would say, and I agree, he'd say that. Be careful, don't sin. A little bit of truth goes a long way when you're telling a massive lie to con people. Con artists know how to do this. This is a con artist. Jesus is only love. Our loving spiritual Creator is only love. The heavenly spiritual world for us to enter is only love. Guess how you have to be if you want to follow Jesus and enter heaven? Only love. Jesus was a pacifist in the sometimes violent, distorted world for this very reason. Only those who are single in love will be filled with her light and loving life force and will enter heaven. Those who are divided within themselves into loving and saving some children while hating, condemning and murdering other children are lost in the darkness of their own making. Jesus came to save, heal and restore the spiritual way of pure love for us to follow and awaken us to our true spiritual identities of love and to become children of our loving spiritual Creator in a heavenly spiritual world of love. They can never harm anyone and are kind to the ungrateful and the evil, and they shine her love always on all of her children, both lost and found. That is who God really is. This stinking, filthy revelation ruse has to be ripped out by the Catholic Church. Pope Leo has to get on the balcony at the Vatican and say, sorry everyone, but we were wrong about this revelation ruse. It's a stinking load of slander. Rip it out, everyone, out of your Bibles. Do it today, immediately. Don't tell your children. Don't read it to them. Don't brainwash them into following and worshipping a brutal, violent war god of the Jews. This is actually the book of Daniel from the Jewish religion. We don't want it. And cut the Bible in two, everyone. We don't want the Jewish religion hanging around either. It smells. There's a bit of love there, but there's some real smelly stuff in it. I say to people, if you go swimming in that Jewish billabong, be really careful. There's a snake that lives in the deep end. The river of living water that Jesus talked about is a flowing stream of pure crystal water. Stay in that stream. Don't go into the stagnant, stinking billabong of the Jews. It's dangerous. God is love. Love is life. It's the life force in your spiritual body. It's love. It's a life force. It's eternal. You don't need toilet paper either in heaven. I used to say that to my sister Joan. She agreed totally. She's gone to heaven. Rip out the evil book of Revelation and burn it and stay in the loving spiritual way that Jesus taught and become spiritually alive and be a loving spiritual child of our loving spiritual Creator in the heavenly spiritual world here on earth now. It's the greatest thing we can all do to try to shift this horrific evil in the world at the moment with these stinking wars going on by these satanic children. All we can do is not get involved and condemn what they're doing and do our best to just speak about it and speak out about it and don't support them in any way whatsoever. So Jesus is love. The God of Jesus is love. Heaven is a place filled only with love. I would like to go there, Jesus. What do I have to do? Christopher, you have to become only love. But that's very hard. People are going to hurt me. Some might want to kill me. They're evil satanic children. Love your enemies. Pray for them who persecute you. Bless those who curse you. Oh, blimey. Is that what I have to do? That's right. Live out of your spiritual body that doesn't die. That's what he's saying. Move into it. Let go of your flesh. It's going to die anyway, Christopher. It's going to be dead meat. Feed it to the vultures. You're going to lose it anyway one day. Show them that there's another way, these evil children. Don't pick up the gun. Don't support war. Don't support the armaments industry. Be a child of heaven on earth now. Then you'll be a child of heaven in heaven. Get it? I hope you enjoyed that Revelation Ruse truth. I speak the truth because I'm a gardener. Gardeners are pretty down to earth. We're touching the earth all the time. And I haven't been brainwashed by the Jewish religion. I was never poisoned by it. I've been blessed by heaven, I can assure you. I didn't realise how blessed I was until I started investigating all this 5 years ago. My mother passed on and my sister passed on. And I just thought, I wonder what they're teaching about Jesus these days. I was shocked, totally shocked. I couldn't believe they're mostly just all Jews, worshipping this Jewish two-headed God. And Jesus is an addition. He's in the mix, you know what I mean? They got charities, they feed the poor, the homeless. Wonderful, that's Jesus, sure. That's leading you to heaven and the divine loving one. Then they say, and Jesus is coming back on the clouds and he's going to kill all the bad people, but we'll be all right. Jesus will save us. Some of us might even be saved before the apocalypse, so we won't even have to suffer. Look, your body's going to die. You know, don't worry about it. Jesus said, don't worry about that. Get into your spiritual body now. He hasn't come back for 2,000 years. He said, follow me to where I've gone by becoming like me, by following my words, understanding them, and you'll pass through death to life. That sums up everything about what Jesus was trying to say and do. Look at his teachings only. Rip out the book of Revelations and use it for, it's got a very good purpose, the book of Revelations, don't get me wrong. If you're having a barbecue later on tonight, rip it out and use it to start the barbecue with. At least it'll be useful for something. Or the other option would be toilet paper, of course. That'd be a good one to use for toilet paper. And very fitting too, I must say, because it is a load of dog droppings. So that's my truthful speaking. And I don't back away from this. I don't have a problem with this one. I might have difficulty explaining the more intricate details of Jesus' teachings. Simply, I've got a bad infection at the moment. It's fungal, it's neurotoxic. So it does interfere with my horse's brain, my horse's brain. I see our life as spiritual riders, our spiritual body on a physical horse, earthly horse. So we're riding on an earthly horse, but we're the spiritual rider on it. We're not the horse, and the horse isn't us, but we're at one for a while until our wonderful biological companion, our pet horse, its heart, this piece of meat here, stops moving. As soon as that piece of meat here stops moving, that's it. Our horse starts to disintegrate and goes back into the elements from which it was formed, the earth. Then our spirit leaves our horse, our biological human body, and we go back to the source of our spirit from which it was formed, which is this spiritual life force in a spiritual world, a spiritual dimension of only love. That's when you're going to come into the presence of this pure, loving, beautiful life force that is so clean, we just won't be able to believe how awe-inspiring and incredibly magnificent that love is, how pure that love is. The problem is, have I covered myself in stinking dog filth and come into her presence? If I have, you can't cross the river of reaping what you sow. You stink too much. You'll sink into the river of reaping what you sow and be washed downstream to be cleansed. That's hell. Children who are full of love, they'll just feel her love entering their whole being, and they'll just walk across the river. Just like Jesus did on the water. That's the whole deal. You're in another body. I wish people had a little bit of logic. My mother Lorraine passed on. She was the most beautiful spiritual follower of Jesus I've ever met in my life. Everyone loved Lorraine. She lived to 101. I spent the last 18 years of her life caring for her full time. I started when I was 42. I was 60 when she finally passed on at 101 years of age. I thought, wow. Well, I was thinking about going back to work in a few years, but I wonder what I'll do now. So I ended up doing this. But we used to talk about the teachings, of course, and she said, I don't know how people get through this dangerous world without the spiritual teachings that Jesus gives. She had intelligent faith. She wasn't the least bit interested in the Jewish religion. And the book of Revelation, she had no time for that at all. She knew it was all about love, and she knew about forgiveness and bringing selfless love to everyone, and that's what she did. She knew the way to heaven. I really miss her because she was the most intelligent, spiritual person I could talk to about Jesus. We were both like really good friends at the end of our journey together on earth. Mother, son, but I felt we were just really good friends who understood Jesus correctly. Now she's gone. So you better contact me, JC in Focus. Where's my email again? So anyone who understands Jesus the right way, send me an email and say, yeah, I agree with you. I understand Jesus too like that. Yeah, I agree with you. The Jewish religion stinks. It's got a war god in it. Yeah, you're right. The God of Jesus is only love. I'd love to hear from some other intelligent spiritual person, because this is all still spiritual. You got to understand this. I believe in heaven. I can't see it. I believe in this divine spiritual life force. I can't see it. I believe I've got a spiritual body. I can't see it. You've got to have faith. But faith comes through living out of it. You realize how the dynamic works, and you get help from heaven. I've had help from heaven for sure. If you're moving in the right direction with your little sailboat, the spirit of heaven will be in your sail, the love of heaven, and it'll help move you along towards heaven. If you're moving in the wrong direction, the spirit of love from heaven can't help you. It's blowing against you, trying to get you to turn around. You're going the wrong way. So let the spiritual love of heaven fill your sail of your life, temporary. We all have to pass through the death experience of the flesh and be born again out of it in our spiritual body. How ready are you to be in the presence of this perfect spiritual being in another dimension where everyone is perfectly clean, spiritually speaking, full of love, can't hurt a fly? How clean are you compared to them? To whatever degree that is, that will determine whether you're allowed to enter that world or not. It's all up to you and me to get ready. There's no one to blame. The divine loving Creator in Jesus don't throw you into hell. You go there through your own making. As you reap, so you sow. As you sow, so you shall reap. With what measure you give to others, it will be given back to you, Jesus said. Buddha taught the same thing. It's all karma. You'll just receive your karma. So let's love every day. Love your way to heaven. Love your way to heaven. Do it. Start loving, forgive, don't hate. However, it's either love your way to heaven or hate your way to hell. Choose the first one. I love ripping the book of Revelation apart. I just love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I could do it all day long. But I hope you saw the obvious there. Until someone points out to you, sorry, I just wanted to let you know there's an elephant in the room with you. Oh, blimey, I never saw that. No, they told you it was a fly or a mouse. Or they didn't tell you at all, you know. They lied to you. I'm not lying to you. That's the truth. It's right there in the words. If you know Jesus, you know this is a pile of slanderous crap. If you don't know Jesus and you're a Jew worshipping the two-headed God of the Jews, you might think this is still legitimate or something. Sorry, you've been conned. Bye for now. Good luck understanding the way to heaven. I hope I understand it. Bye.